All right, welcome to Drilling and Filling. My name is SJ, and today I've got a very special guest. He's all the way from Gyro drilling, started off as a geologist and has made his way into the office in the world of drilling. And he's mentioned to me before he's been in drilling since he's graduated. I've got here the owner and operator, James Buchanan. James, welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. First time we've met though, so it's really good environment. I guess let's begin at the start, right? So you went to school to be a geologist?
Yeah, geologist. From a very young age, I used to see mountains in the hills of Donegal.
Yeah.
Wondering why is there a mountain there, not over there? So even landforms intrigued me. And then as I sort of got into it and sort of went to school, someone told me, you can actually get gold in those rocks. And I think from the age of about 12 or 13, I was like sold.
Wow, okay.
I was in.
Yes. I mean, of course you'd be in. Someone told you to be gold in it. So you just like fell in love with it from that young of an age?
From that young of an age, yeah. I was sold lock, stock and barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, prior to that, I thought, the only place you buy gold and diamonds is in the jewelry shop.
Yeah.
And whenever someone told me you can actually get it in a rock, I always thought, well, this is just fantastic.
I'm perfect. So did you, like in school, like going up to it, were there many opportunities obviously to continue that passion? Because obviously it was nurtured in some aspect. Like, do you have opportunities in school to learn more about geology before going to uni?
Yes, I did geology at school. I was one of the few schools in Northern Ireland that actually had geology on the curriculum, less and less.
Wow.
So even here in Perth, Australia, it's unbelievable in a state which is a commodity-driven state, how few secondary schools actually have geology as a core subject.
I know, it's insane. I've my little one, very similar to you, been collecting rocks and finds them fascinating. So brings them inside the house and just wants to know everything about them. But then when you look at school curriculums and like what they're learning, it does surprise me in schools. It's not as taught as much or even nurtured as much. So went to uni for it, graduated. I know where you headed off next to, which is probably my favorite part of it. Why don't you let everyone know exactly like where you headed off to after that, like how you got that first?
Yeah, well, I'm one of these guys who forward sells.
Yep.
And let's just say I wasn't a straight A, at my academics. So prior to my end of year exams, which were coming, every third year was going to do them.
Yep.
So I forward sold myself to the market by advising 151 companies that the next best geologist was about to come on the market. So on application 151, someone showed an interest and said, come for an interview.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So the interview was set up. It was a French company based in Paris.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, we like your story. We need geologists to go offshore.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this company took me on board, did the interview prior to my final exams. Yes, I did pass them successfully. Pass is a pass. And within about maybe 2 months of graduating, I spent about 2 or 3 months learning like the trade. This company had a training center based in Paris, which was just wonderful. And then from there, we got shipped into the North Sea, all over the North Sea, and up in the Clarefield off Shetland. Spent about 5 or 6 months up there, and then from there I got transferred again up into the Arctic Circle for Norwegian State Oil, which is Statoil.
Okay.
So I spent 4 years bobbing around on a semi-submersible drill rig in deep water.
Explain this to the people. Semi-submersible drill rig. Like, explain, I guess, your first feeling rocking up to this. Like,
yeah, well, number one, you get about 5 flights to get to work.
Yeah.
You'd fly into London and into Europe, and then from Europe up into Norway, and then from Norway you'd fly into like Stavanger or Bergen, and then you'd fly again to a remote like helicopter base, and then you would grab a helicopter for about maybe an hour and a half to get out to the installation.
Okay.
And So on the ocean, you've got like this sort of continental slope, continental floor, then abyssal plain.
Okay.
And abyssal plain is like it's named, timely named like the abyss because you're in such deep water.
Yep.
So in the UK, in the North Sea, the average water depth's 40-45 meters. So you can have what you call a jack up, where a rig can physically put legs down and jack itself up. But whenever you're in an abyssal plain where water depths north of 250 meters, 300 meters, we were in 360 meters before we touched the sea floor.
Yeah.
You can only drill it with a semi-submersible rig. So it is, as I say, semi-submersible, like a submarine. About a third of the drill rig is underwater.
Wow.
And then you got anchors or chains that go out from all four corners of the rig.
That's crazy.
Which sit on the sea floor to try and keep you in a position above the wellhead.
Wow. Doing that. At any time, did you, like, I think about this and my immediate thought is just insanity. Like, I just see giant waves crashing against this thing. Did you feel your life at any point during this time?
Not really. I mean, like the engineering, whenever you see what man can actually do, it is truly unbelievable.
Yeah.
I had a little job prior to going offshore, in between jobs like driving semi-articulated lorries, and the biggest lorry or truck you can put on the road is 40 tons. And whenever we have the hook, which is like the traveling block in the drill bit, in the drill rig, you'll see it going up and down the derrick. You know, this thing could easily lift 500, 600, 700 tons in one lift. So it was like lifting, you know, 15 to 20 fully weighted trucks at one time, you know, in, out, up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
And so whenever we're drilling, you know, we're obviously drilling, we're spudding in, and you drill quite a big hole initially, and then you get smaller and smaller, so you constantly case it.
Yeah.
And so the casing has to be run in hole. And some of the deepest holes that we drilled when we were offshore, 12 kilometers.
Get out of here.
So
what are you drilling for?
that is oil and gas.
That's oil and gas, yeah.
So there's two types of geologists
Yeah.
in your drilling and chilling.
Yeah.
99.9% of the geologists you're going to chat to here in Australia are
Yeah.
what we call hard rock geologists.
Yeah.
But there's two types of geologists. You're either hard or you're soft.
Okay.
Hard rock geologist.
Yeah.
They're
You're a hard geologist.
You're
it's
a hard.
fine.
Yeah.
I would actually make it not a bad like hard lemonade, just hard rock geo.
Hard rock geo. So hard rock geo is like what we have here in Australia.
Yep.
It's minerals.
Yeah.
You know, gold, base metals, iron ore, rare earths, all hard rock.
Yeah.
Soft rock geology is petroleum geology, you know, and timely named because soft rock is all your sediments can't get too deformed, can't get superheated, can't get metamorphosed because it would destroy all the carbonates, as in your oil, your gas. And so there's really two roads that you travel as a geologist, one or the other, and usually most people stick in that
one lane
for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for me to make a transition from a soft rock geologist to a hard rock geologist was, again, you know, something different.
Yeah. I mean, you applied for 151 jobs. I think you were ready to take whatever geology you could get. So with these guys, like, obviously, how long were you out, like, on the submersible for at, like, any given time? Was it in and out sort of every week, 2 weeks?
It's usually, fly in, fly out job.
Yeah.
And you'd be expected to be at the heli deck.
Yeah.
Obviously, prior to. If you missed your heli, if you turned up late, you would basically pick the $1,000 price of the seat. That was a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And then you'd probably get an NRB, not required back.
Oh.
So two things that you really don't want flagged on your personal profile.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would normally fly out for 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And in the UK sector where I started on the Clare field, just off Shetland, it was like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which is fine. And then from there I got transferred to Norway, and Norway not only upped the wages, but they downed the work.
Oh, okay.
So they were 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off,
Oh,
2
okay.
weeks on, 4 weeks off,
All right.
2, 3, 2, 4,
Yep.
all year long. And these rigs even had carpets.
Go to Norway. So that's fantastic. So when you were sort of on the ship, obviously you're doing everything. Any crazy stories that happened? People falling off board? You know, people. Did anyone miss the heli back at any stage? You don't have to name names. I just want to hear it. You
Yes.
did, didn't you?
No, I know. You know, don't miss the helicopter. And no, maybe the odd person might have missed it. I'll tell you who did miss it. Bit of a sad story.
Yeah.
Because Norway's got massive fjords,
Okay.
like phenomenal drops, cliffs that just go into ocean.
Yeah.
Some of the offsiders, roughnecks, thought that base jumping would be a good pastime.
No.
So they would base jump off these fjords, and maybe Sven didn't come to the next shift, and we're like, well, where's Sven?
Oh no.
The base jump didn't go too good.
Oh jeez.
And yes, and not everyone's a winner. So
Yeah.
parachuting's fine, maybe from a a plane or a helicopter
plane.
or something, but from a fjord, not the best.
Yeah.
And but we experienced some massive oceans. Like we had the whole of the Atlantic looking at us, the whole of the Arctic Circle looking at us. Very few land masses up there to like break a wave cycle. So let's just say one morning we're getting up, the sky is bluer than blue. I used to call it Arctic blue.
Yeah.
So blue.
Yeah.
It was truly astounding to see it. And the Arctic Ocean is like a mirror, perfectly reflective. But yet, whenever bad weather comes, we have to disconnect the BOP, that's the blowout preventer, from the wellhead on the sea floor, which is 360 meters beneath us. So we're disconnecting the BOP. And I'm like, well, why are we disconnecting the BOP? It's amazing weather out there. We should be drilling.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, there's major weather about to come in. There was a storm in the Gulf of Mexico a week ago.
Wow, and it traveled up.
And now that wave train has traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and is coming into the Arctic Circle, and we're going to be surfing for the next week.
Jeez.
And that's what we'd do.
Yeah, wow.
We would sit there and you'd have a crew of maybe 120, 130 men and women, chefs, cooks, painters, tool pushers, OIMs, and we're all just sitting in the eating ice cream, sitting in the cinema room going, nothing we can do, bar surf.
Yeah. So it's basically you live the pirate life without essentially traveling the seven seas.
You could say that.
Yeah.
But the seas were incredible. We had massive standby boats, like some of the biggest boats that you'll see in the water.
Yeah.
And these boats would disappear between the waves.
Whoa.
Like the waves wouldn't break because we were in such deep water. But between the waves, as the wave would ride up and ride down, and we were sitting maybe 70, 80 meters above the waves on the installation. Yeah. But still, the boat would disappear.
Wow.
Between the waves. It was impressive to see.
Cannot fathom. It's
magic.
Like how incredible that would have been. Obviously, being out the ocean-wise, and the Arctic has some pretty incredible animals. Did you encounter anything whilst you were there, whether you're 3 weeks off?
In Norway, I know it's Save the Whales and Save the Dolphins, but whale is on the menu. Yeah. Every restaurant you go to, steak is just like whale. Yeah. So let's have some whale. Yeah. You get kangaroo here. Yeah. And
it's delicious.
But you wouldn't see too much life. In the UK once, we had a semi-submersible, like an ROV, remotely operated vehicle, which goes down and looks at what we call the BOP, the blowout preventer. Maybe it had to do like its monthly check or something. And as this ROV is going down at about maybe 100 to 120 meters, as we were pushing it on further, we saw a bird literally fly in front of it, and we're like, that's impossible. Yeah. What is a bird doing at that type of a depth? Yeah. And it was a cormorant. So a cormorant is a bird that flies around, and like you'll see them on like David Attenborough shows and stuff, and they dive down into the water looking for fish.
Oh, and it dove that deep.
We were, like the cameras picked it up. We were
That's
like,
insane.
what are you doing? Most people would think the cormorant would only dive maybe 5 or 10 meters.
Yeah,
if
kingfisher
even,
depth, pick a fish, get
but
up.
this thing
Just went.
It was astounding to see.
That's incredible. That's so good. So, you were there. Sounds incredible. How long were you in sort of Norway and North Arctic Circle for?
Well, really about 4 years all up, but it was fly in, fly out of the UK.
Okay.
Like we were even flying people in and out of Perth. We were flying people in and out of, we don't care where you're coming from. If you can do the job, you're on the installation.
Yeah.
But Norway's sort of ethos is if a Norwegian can paint the decks, a Norwegian's painting the deck.
Yeah.
If a Norwegian can be the driller, a Norwegian will be the driller.
Yeah.
And so of, say, about 120 on the rig, about 10 of us were internationals.
Okay.
I was one of them, and our job was to basically train a Norwegian to do the job.
Yeah.
And which was fine, just fantastic people. And what I would have learned from the Norwegians is there's no corner cutting.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a job, do it properly.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to see how they as a population could just deliver on these projects.
Yeah.
No fuss, no just if we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was something which I've taken from my own personal trait, going, that's the way to get stuff done.
That's awesome. I measured twice, cut once.
Yeah.
That's great. So you did that 4 years, obviously lived all around. What transitioned to, how did you end up here? Was there stops along the way? Did you drill any other countries, or was it straight to Perth? Because it's clear blue skies.
Well, about 3 in.the morning,
Yeah.
offshore Norway, because the rig would never stop.
Yeah,
24 hours a day, non-stop.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the podcast 12 hours a day, I'll do it 12 hours at night.
Yeah.
Non-stop
Non-stop.
podcasting.
Let's do it.
Non-stop, nothing, everything's 24 hours. So at about 3, 4 in the morning, we all knew the price of oil was cyclical, same as any commodity. Gold goes up and down, the price of crude oil goes up and down. Diamonds, iron ore, everything determines what the market says. And there was what you call an oil glut. And so oil collapsed to $17.50 a barrel in 99, 2000. And the oil, they were like, why are we spending this money drilling? So the oil industry was virtually done.
Yeah.
And from an exploration point of view.
Yeah.
So this old Geo 6570 goes, you'll be right, son. They're drilling for gold in Australia. Just a throwaway comment. And I just thought, yeah, that will do me.
Yeah.
And literally got off the rig, looked into it, how to travel here, where to go, what town to go to, how to get a visa. Basically within 6 months, I turned up in Perth, Western Australia, walked off the plane, wouldn't book a night's accommodation, nothing.
Yeah.
Just whatever I find.
Yeah.
And next day, walked into UWA, the university,
Yeah.
University of Western Australia.
Right from my house, yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Walked into the Geology department, met a few of the lecturers.
Yeah.
They showed me a big map of Western Australia and were like, you need to go to this town called Kalgoorlie.
Yeah.
Within 2 or 3 days, jumped on the train, walked into Kalgoorlie and spent, you could say, the next sort of 9-10 years of my life discovering hard rock mining.
Fantastic. Just on the train to Kalgoorlie, is it a good journey to Kalgoorlie? Because we've had a conversation about when we went to Diggers, if we should drive or get the train. And we were very adamant on getting the train. So I want to hear, is the train ride okay?
The train ride is okay, as long as you don't have to get on a bus.
Okay.
As long as it actually works. As long as it's not washed out. We all know it's been washed out again. And east to West Australia we're currently on our own.
Okay, yeah.
And because of the recent storms. But yeah, I've taken the train a couple of times, and the train works. It gets you there. You can concentrate, do a bit of work.
Yeah.
Whereas, on the road, you have to concentrate, you have to watch the roads, and, from Southern Cross to Coolgardie, you could nearly get a rope, tie it to the steering wheel, go in the back, have a sleep. Let's see if Tesla can actually deliver that.
Okay, well, if they can deliver that. Well, my car currently has lane assist and obviously the cruise control. Sometimes when I'm driving on the highway, I pop that on. I definitely feel like this is a little bit dangerous because I think I've forgotten how to drive within lanes when I'm not got it on. So if we can get that, yes, absolute happiness. So you went to Cal. I've been to Cal, it's great. Obviously a digger time, but I've never been there outside of it. What was your first impressions of Kalgoorlie? And what did you think you got yourself into? Because
I could see the unemployment in Kalgoorlie was extremely low.
Yeah.
It's a real working town. And if you want to get ahead, if you want to put your shoulder to the wheel, it's the place to go. For a town from opportunity, it's just truly incredible for any young person, educated or not educated, really.
Yeah.
It caters for all. And I thought this place, this will work. So I ended up getting a job. Rather than going straight back to geology, I went into technical services.
Okay.
And offshore, we would run gyroscopes.
Okay.
To directionally survey the holes. And this technology had come into the mines, and because I had been exposed to it offshore, it was a very easy fit for me to join a survey company, downhole surveys. And went on a couple of drill rigs, met drillers, and I would chat to them and go, what type of shifts do you guys work? And they're like, 6 and 1. And I'm like, 6 days on, 1 day off, how does that work? He goes, no, 6 weeks on, 1 week off. And I thought I had literally went back to the Stone Age.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing 4 weeks off, 2 weeks on.
I literally couldn't tell people what I had been exposed to. They thought, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
How can you actually, pay a mortgage doing so little work? And I was astounded at how worked or overworked the Australian was. And this was normal. But that's about 15,
I was about to ask.
18 years ago. Well, it's not so much, they don't work them so hard anymore.
So what made you, because you said you didn't want to go back into geology straight away. What was that switch there? Was it just you saw a gap within the market that you could fulfill that wasn't sort of being fulfilled in Cal, or was it more just you wanted a bit of a change?
Well, from a geologist point of view, one of the main jobs is logging the chips, logging the core, logging whatever comes out of that drill rig. And I had been logging core offshore in an oil and gas installation for about 6 or 7 months before I more took the technical senior role. And offshore, we have a thing called a shaker. It's about the size of a car. And you'll have about 6 of them in a row. Yeah. And so whenever the sample comes to surface, the shakers will shake the sample and the mud to separate them. So the mud can be recirculated back down the hole, but the sample can come off.
Yeah.
And
giant sieve.
So the geologist's job is to clean that sample, analyze that sample, log that sample, enter it into the log. And so virtually every job was logging. Yeah. And I went, there's no way I'm going back to logging. But plus I had this machine that would do it for us. Yeah. Whereas all these geos here in Australia had to pick up the sieve by themselves. I was like, there's no way I'm going back.
That's what 5 years.
This is going backwards. I'm trying to go forwards in life.
That's what your 5-year-old wanted to do. Pan for gold. This is it.
That's it.
That's fantastic. All right, cool. So that's it. And then you just were like, I'm not going back to this. I'm gonna move into the space I kind of know about a little bit there.
Yeah, move into technical services. And so rather than working for one company, I could have worked for 50 companies. Yeah. And then being a geologist, I got to basically move all across the gold field, see many, many different mines. Yeah. And one of my most favorite pastimes when I would get to know a geological crew and be involved with the mine and the drilling was to go into the mapping room. Yeah, okay. Chat to the geologists. Yeah. They always had these gigantic tables with lights underneath them. Yeah. Because it would light up the maps. And I would go, well, how did it get here? And it was always a fascinating story hearing the geologists break down their understanding why a particular gold resource was here, or a lithium resource was here, or a lead zinc, or a nickel. And it was truly remarkable. But even though I worked all across the gold fields, and you could have written a thesis on each and every deposit, how it got here. And you could have got that book and went, I've got it. I know how this is. Driven 20, 30 k's up to the next mine and going, I know everything. I just tell it to the boys down the road.
Don't worry about it.
Every deposit was unique
Yeah.
and individualistic.
Yeah.
And you couldn't apply what they had found to the next one. And that's what was so intriguing about the geology.
The geology side of it. Perfect.
So, you working, obviously, understanding the pits and understanding where these finds actually come from, which is a very unique thing because I think a lot of drillers do know this, and there are geos in there. So, you said this in the break, but when did you become a turncoat? When did you decide to betray your geology code of conduct and join the drilling game?
Well,
I know that sounds harsh.
Opportunities, I constantly say to my children
Yeah.
and those close around me, when an opportunity comes, takes it.
Yeah.
No one is going to roll a red carpet out in front of you, ever. And another great saying I have, if you put nothing in, you'll get nothing out.
Yep.
In every aspect of life. And just through, being in the industry, talking to a lot of people, and working as a surveyor on many, many mines, we obviously would work very closely with the drillers.
Mm-hmm.
A particular driller in Kalgoorlie wasn't doing so good, and he was like, you should buy this business. And I was like, yeah, right, I'm fine doing my own thing. But he kept at me, and I was like, well, it can't be that hard. I'll go out bush and see what this is all about. Took my team, off we went, had a look at this, and I thought, this guy can work it out, I'll work it out.
Yeah.
And so ended up buying his company.
Okay.
And now that was what we'd call the very first pass of drilling.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may not even call it a drill rig.
Yeah.
But it was an auger drill rig, so for soil sampling.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. And so I sort of bought one, then I bought another one, then another one. And the next thing I got 5 of them.
Yeah.
There was a lot of one-man bands operating in Kalgoorlie, and it's a pretty tough business to run. And I was sort of looking at this more from a corporate approach.
Yeah.
And sort of more like safety and professional. We'd only run it with 2 people at a time.
Yeah. Okay.
And engage with the client, talk to them about their geology. But being a geologist, every drilling contract came from a geologist. So for me to talk geology to a geologist, it just was such an easy fit. And obviously I was massively exposed to a lot of the clients already.
Yeah.
And so they sort of would already have known of me and what I can deliver. And they're like, well, he did that job okay, let's run this job.
Yeah.
So I was just bringing a new service, but to exactly the same market base.
Yeah. So you had your superpower of obviously being able to talk to people, having that exposure and understanding of what they were sort of looking for and how they sort of planned things out. You weren't just sort of putting a rig on site. But were there struggles in the first, obviously you'd bought this business, it hadn't been doing well before, obviously identifying what the issues were with that, it would have been sort of the first step. But were there any struggles within that first period before you started buying more rigs that you can talk to at all?
Yeah, well, it's all well and good to buy them, but to operate them and in the conditions is extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And these rigs are going where there's no roads, no camp, no Wi-Fi, nothing. So you need to be completely, you have to set yourself up with your own caravans, camps, food, showers, water. It's the add-ons are what nobody tells you about. And that was definitely challenging. And then trying to get staff to go and work in these extremely remote locations.
Yeah.
You'd always have this throwaway line, oh, you'll see Australia. You'll see the part that nobody else may want to see. And So yeah, it's easy to hook them, but then keeping them is it's always a challenge. But once you get a crew up and running, it's not too bad. But then from the auger rigs would open up a piece of ground geochemically. You know, so when I say you would get a look at it, what the surface geology is like. And because in the gold fields where we operate, there's very little exposed rock. It's just bush.
Yeah.
And so the auger rig will basically unlock that geochemistry so people can see what they're looking at. And we would have clients come to us after maybe we have drilled for 2 or 3 weeks. We've delivered the job and they were like, that was fantastic, that was great, thanks very much. We've now booked an air core or an RC rig for the next 3 to 4 months to drill that out.
Yeah.
This was a conversation I kept having, and we could see this work going straight past us.
Yeah.
And then one day the penny just dropped and I went, that's it, buy an air core rig.
Now, first to the air core, like how does one go and purchase an air core rig? Is it just there are rigs around? Obviously there's buyers. Is it like buying a new car? Do you get a little bow on it when you go and pick it up? Like, what's that experience like? I've never actually asked a driller this.
Yeah, that is, you want to get one that works.
Yeah, obviously.
That helps. But buy it from a reputable source. You potentially could buy one out of the box, but that would absolutely blow the budget. And it's really through the network, just talking to people that you know, going, oh, do you reckon you would sell your best rig to me? And you just keep talking to people really, and then finally we got somebody who decided they would sell a rig.
Yep.
But the problem with selling a rig to anybody is you're making a direct competitor against you.
Yeah, of course.
And with me pushing into the air core space, so that's the space before RC and diamond. And so I tried to really corner that market. So 3 different companies sold me their air core rigs.
Okay.
So they were letting go that air core component.
And you would snatch up the real estate from those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it really made us more of a specialist in that market.
Fantastic. And are you still within that market space now? That sort of expanded even more so with sort of the current operations?
Well, it's only expanded in numbers. We're still heavily in that space.
Yeah, of course.
Air core, but an air core rig will, what we say, it'll drill to basement. It'll drill through the surface weathered profile, hard rock. And at Goldfields, the sort of weathered profile that ranges from about 40 to 70 meters before we hit like basement.
Yeah.
And but then the market, the geologists are like, well, we want a bit of the basement rock. Please get us some. And so normally an air core rig has what we call an air core bit. It's a blade bit.
Okay.
And we would then pull that blade bit back to surface, put a hammer on, so an air-driven hammer, a slim line, what we call it, hammer. So we'd run that hammer back down, then hammer basement.
Okay.
And we would hammer it maybe 5 or 6 rods.
And then,
So that was us sort of pushing into the RC space. And rather than it being full RC, we call it slimline RC.
That's all about marketing.
It's all about marketing. And you want the sample to recover it, we'll recover it. And so it's given us like another string to the bow.
Yep. To go from there. And cool. So obviously, you know, you've helped corner the market. I think I've seen this as a young kid who's gone and sent 1 million emails before even passing his final exam that he's going to be the next biggest geologist in there. I can see that has transcended and continued on with things in Cal. With sort of, I guess, your adoption and you're really innovating and looking in the future for it as well. In the current market, obviously, a lot of stuff is, like, a lot of drillers' mentalities is if it's not broke, don't fix it for yourself. What's your approach, I guess, to adopting sort of newer technologies and newer things, and obviously, you know, rebranding how you're doing, you know, slimline RC and stuff?
Well, you know, there's so many things that can go wrong in the field.
Yeah.
That you want to put in engineering protocols to the best of your ability before you even pull out of the yard.
Yeah. Okay.
And so in every aspect of the business, you're constantly looking at it.
Yeah.
And from your booster point of view, from your rod supplier point of view, do you import stuff or do you use stuff that's built here in Perth, Western Australia? That's what we use, stuff in Perth, Western Australia, because we just know it works.
Yeah.
We know other stuff can be cheaper, but there's just no point because we just can't afford for breakdowns.
Yeah.
Because if we break down on a lease, fine, the rig's broken, let's fix it. But you must remember the client could have 2 geologists and 2 fieldies sitting there, and they're costing money, and they just can't sit there and do Sudoku all day.
Yeah.
And core plan is part of that as well, because the rig has to be reported every 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah.
The client needs to know. And the communication is critical, and it's key that we can talk to them and tell them what's happening and tell them what's doing.
Yeah.
And yes, we used to do it all on the written plots.
Yep.
But I've sort of spoken previously about geologist's job is to understand geology, not to understand Egyptian hieroglyphics, because even I can't read these things. And it's all the 1%ers that count.
Yeah.
And having the core plan come on board, and for us to be able to communicate like so effectively with the client has just been just another dream. I would never go back.
Yeah.
I only want to go forward.
Yeah.
So embracing you guys has been part of it. Embracing like the best engineers in Perth has been part of it.
Yeah.
Some of the best fabricators in Kalgoorlie. So whenever we fix something, we needed to go out and perform. We just can't have a frame crack or a fuel tank leak.
Yeah.
If it's going to work, it's got to work.
Yeah, it's got to work properly.
And so constantly always looking at the market, watching the market, and when something comes on board, which is a significant advantage to what we do as service delivery, as we engage with the client, is an absolute no-brainer.
So this stuff, obviously, when you're doing these pitches to them, it is part of your sales pitch to these guys. It's like, we're best in service, but we're best in service not just because we do the work correctly, but we've got all of the back catalog stuff to effectively to make this project.
Yeah, it's true. Lots of people go, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
And I tell them, just do what it says on the sheet. And they're like, really? I'm like, I'm telling you.
Follow the recipe.
Just do what it says on the sheet. And yes, drilling, putting a sample on the ground is paramount. But how you put it on the ground, how you engage with the client, doing it safely, looking after your crew, return of service is extremely important to, really, I'm just a family-based, small cap company. I'm not listed on the stock exchange, and return of service is something that keeps us in business year in, year out. And as companies come and go on the stock exchange, you'll find that the geos just thread their way through. And as they thread their way through, we follow them. And a relationship is built. A relationship is there, and it works for them, works for us. They get what they want. They want to deliver a resource and as economically as possible, and as best as possible. And it's a great working relationship.
Yeah. So you obviously have a still really good contact with a lot of the geologists over here, or in Cal and stuff like that as well, correct? You've still sort of built up that relationship. Any inkling, any urge to get back into geology? Are you satisfied with just those conversations and being able to walk into a room of geologists and sort of understand what they're talking about?
Yeah, look, it's a massive advantage being a contractor. You get exposure to so many companies, and I really love that exposure. I nearly even feel bad for the geologists who are just associated with one company, because they just get to see one resource. Is it a contact? Is it a fault? Is it a meteorite impact? Which is true. That's the Sudbury in the whole northern Canada.
That's so good.
It works. And wear your hard hats. And I really enjoy that geologically, and as what the geology we bring to the table is we bring interpretation to tables, because of all these companies that we work for, not all of them are geologically strong. Let's just say some of them are financially strong.
Yeah.
Like let's just say a London company comes and engages us for work, and whenever they see that we've got geologists on board and geochemists, and we can interpret the whole periodic table.
Yeah.
And go, you are sitting on a lithium deposit, you are sitting on a rare earth deposit, you're sitting on a base metal deposit.
Wow.
The gold's over there because here's all the pathfinders.
Yeah.
And so this is another aspect that we deliver to the market.
Yeah.
And many of the reports that we give to the client are lead articles on their like ASX.
Oh wow.
As they report.
Wow. So you're not only just doing, you're providing so much more.
Yeah.
More value to what the customers are, which is probably
value add.
Yeah.
Rather than me just throwing thousands of samples at your feet and going, good luck.
Yeah.
You know,
There's gold in
we'll
there somewhere.
get those samples, we'll deliver them to the lab.
Yeah.
And if you give us the results from the lab, we'll interpret them.
And so you're scratching that itch from your, things. So you've had this incredible journey. From young, looking at mountains, being like, there's gold in there. You've had Yoda moments where someone's like, go to Australia, there's gold, which is consistently has been there. And now you've got sort of this fleet, 10 rigs currently at the moment. What is next for you and your journey? Do you want to get more rigs? Obviously, you've built a really good foundation in Kalgoorlie. Any expansions, or are you happy sort of with what you are, raising kids and making sure that they have the same lessons that you've had, or the same opportunities? Give them the opportunities. Like, what's next for James?
Well, what is next? Well, let's just chat about what is.
Yeah.
One of the biggest values in life, here we go, you're going to get the
That's what I want.
You're going to get it. It's obviously, everyone thinks it's $1. It's not, it's time.
Yeah.
The clock is ticking for you and for me and for every one of us. How much time can you give to you, to your family, and being running your own business gives you, if you manage it properly, massive amounts of time, and to be where you want, go where you want, do what you want, and obviously you're putting into your business all the time.
Yeah, of course.
You're watching the market all the time. And but that would be one of the biggest values for me. And but where to for the future? Do I need more drill rigs? I always say the last one was the last one. Work that out. And do I go overseas and push into that?
Yeah.
I sort of look at the WA market as my backyard and go, have we completely taken over our backyard? And the answer would be no.
Yeah.
So why should I go overseas for all that headache
when it's right here?
When it's right here in my own backyard? And if the market wants more rigs, we'll let it have more rigs. But then again, you just don't want turnover to be your vanity, because you could go bankrupt doing that very quickly, because the bigger you get, your expenses travel with you. And but I really enjoy the geology side when we do the interpretation. That for me is one of the biggest value adds whenever you unlock a tenement for a geological team.
Yeah.
It is truly marvelous. It still excites me to this day.
That's awesome.
And it's the lithium market comes and goes.
Yeah.
The gold market's about to get very strong again.
Yes.
We've had a brilliant run with rare earths.
Yeah.
It just so happens all the rare earths are in the upper clays.
Okay.
And what better rig to drill rare earths than with an air core rig?
We're in a movie. Let's go.
Come on. So my timing regarding that was it was pretty good. So obviously the government is making more and more legislation to support rare earths.
Yeah.
They want it, they need it. The earth wants it, the earth needs it. There's a massive geopolitical push for this. So hopefully our rare earth miners in WA and Australia will get more market sentiment. But we're only a result. At the end of the day, we're just a contractor providing a service. And if the stock market can't raise funds they're not spending funds.
Yeah. Very much aware of that.
You know, we're extremely led by these parameters.
Yeah.
And, you know, is the money going to go into tech? Is it going to go into biomed? Please, everybody, invest in the commodity industry.
There we go. You heard it here first. It's invest. Fantastic. And then what is the sort of one final question before we wrap up here today? If I'm a driller and I'm sort of listening to this, what's the one piece of advice if they have, if you know, I had aspirations to sort of build a company like yours? What's the one piece of advice that you would give? You've given some absolute golden nuggets, and I use that pun correctly in this term. But what would be the one piece that you would give to people?
Don't set up an air core company. Thank you very much.
Stay out of my business.
Yeah, well, get good equipment.
Yeah.
Number one, you're going to need brilliant staff because you just can't be out there, you know, pulling levers 24/7. Do what it says on the sheet. It is extremely hard because you have to completely back yourself in, because a proper rig setup, whether it's an air core rig or an RC or a diamond, you know, you're looking at no change of $1 million plus.
Yeah.
And you know, that really isn't just pocket change. You're going to have the support of your, you know, your family, your wife. It's never just a one-person decision. Bring everybody who's going to support you with you.
Yeah.
And give it a red hot go. You know, as I said at the very start, you know, if you put in, you get out.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Well, I think that's probably the best wrap off we can do. So, tell the people where they can find you, how they can get in contact with you, Gyro.
Yeah, well, Gyro Drilling, based in the goldfields, Geology. Got a big yard up there. We've got our corporate office here in West Perth.
Oh, fantastic. Cool.
You'll see me walking up and down Collins Street. If you need a coffee and you want to talk about drilling, let's meet.
I'm definitely coming in. I need to hear more stories about giant waves. This would be good. And websites, where can they find you?
Yeah, gyroaustralia.com.au.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, look, James, thank you genuinely so much for coming in today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will definitely have you back in again, dive in a little bit more deeper into some of these stories. But thank you everyone for listening, and till next time. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much.